Honorable Deputy Minister Dikeledi Magazi is here. Is the Minister, Honorable Minister Senzo Mtuli present? I haven't seen his name.
And no, Chairperson, the Minister is not present. I will be with the Director General in this meeting. Thanks.
Why is the Minister not here?
The Minister has got other engagement which actually he couldn't procrastinate.
This is his budget. This is the Minister's budget. We have selected this day because we want him to prioritize his budget and to prioritize his annual performance plan. There is nothing as important as this meeting. Even especially when the Minister will be doing this for the first time, since he was appointed as the Minister of Water and Sanitation. For the first time, he was to share with us his perspectives, his plans, his policy direction, his strategic objectives, and all of that. For the first time, him as a person, as a political head of this department, it's quite important that he attends this meeting. Is number one than any other engagement that we can think of. That is why I'm asking, why is he not here? But nevertheless, let me start. Thank you very much. Take this opportunity to
recording in progress.
Welcome everybody in this meeting on a Friday afternoon. We've got to work very hard because this is all about how we must deliver services to our people. The purpose of this meeting is to deal with the budget and the annual performance plan of the Department of Water and Sanitation. We want to hear how you performed last year, but importantly, we want to hear how you are going to ensure delivery of water and sanitation this financial year, 2022 and 2023. It is quite important to do so because we want, after having listened to you as a department, sharing with us your plans and intentions, we should engage with those because we want to strengthen our oversight role. We want to check whether the plans that we're putting on the table are going to be implemented or not. We want to know the impact that you're making in relation to providing water, especially to the communities where water is needed the most. We want to hear you how you're dealing with the challenges of water tankering, which is quite a problem, and its related abuses. We want to hear how you're dealing with those because we need to attend to the issues. We want to ensure that you're doing your infrastructure development, the necessary infrastructure, that you must ensure that it is in place in this respect. We want to hear how you're working with the water boards, which also have got serious political and leadership problems. In the past few years, we've been dealing with the water boards, and it's quite important to make a reflection on how they function, specifically their effectiveness in terms of delivering water. We are aware that there are quite a number of problems pertaining to the water boards. But we also want to ensure that when we play our oversight, we are quite alert that these are the challenges and predicaments that you face and how you're going about to resolve those particular issues. And lately, the department invokes what is called Section 63 of the Water Services Act to intervene, especially in the municipalities, in the water boards which are not fulfilling their executive obligations under the Constitution, by taking powers of those water boards, by intervening to ensure that you provide water on a sustainable basis, that you provide, you maintain the infrastructure of water, that you resolve all the related problems pertaining to water. It's quite important to hear your perspective around those particular issues. Lately, we are bedeviled by the floods, especially which have taken a lot of lives, the lives of our own people, especially in KZN. But we are aware that there were other floods in the Eastern Cape as well as in the Northwest. How are you dealing and intervening in that respect, and how the money that is going to be appropriated to the department is going to be utilized for the purposes intended? Because we know that there are shacks, there are hyenas who are readily waiting for such opportunities and opportunistically take advantage and divert the resources. We want to hear what preemptive measures you are putting in place to ensure that that doesn't happen, like it did happen in the case of the COVID-19. All of these, we expect that they must be encapsulated in your APP, the annual performance plan, so that we know the extent in which you intend to deliver in respect of these particular issues that we know that they are day-to-day activities and functions of the department. Now, as I indicated from the beginning, it's just that I'm a bit disappointed that the minister is not here. We wanted him to lead from the front in respect of raising these issues and sharing with us for the first time his perspectives on the issues of water and water provision and maintenance and even support in the country going forward. But be that as it may, we are going to continue. I think this is a matter that I will discuss with if you allow as a committee, that I'll take it up with the minister to express our view, our collective view on how we expect to move these particular processes forward and really prioritize this meeting. This season, where we are at the moment in Parliament between May and June, it is when we're dealing with the budgets of the departments, and we must understand our work as such that it must be synchronized in such a way that it focuses on these particular areas of the APPs as well as the budgets. I received an apology from Deputy Minister Mahlobo. He indicated to me that he's attending an urgent funeral in Pretoria, in Tshwane, and that he's going to struggle in terms of logging in and out. I have accepted that. It's okay. Once he's available, he will be available to support the political leadership and administrative leadership of the department. With that, colleagues and honorable members, I think let's move. Or before that, I see the hand of Honorable Mikalakis. Honorable Mikalakis, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I would just like, from my side, I'm sure the other members feel the same, would like to know, we heard that the minister is not available, that he has other commitments, but we don't know the nature of the other commitments. I myself would very much like to know what other commitments take precedence over Parliament. If we can just get clarity from the minister which meeting he's attending instead of Parliament, that would help us a lot as well. Thank you.
Okay, no, it's okay. I will allow the Deputy Minister to do that if he has such an information. But be that as it may, I was going to invite him to come forward to make a submission on behalf of the department. In the process, she will guide us on how they plan to unfold the presentation itself. Over to you, Deputy Minister. You are heartily welcome to this important meeting with the Select Committee. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson of the Select Committee and members of this Select Committee. Let me indicate that the Minister is currently doing political work in the Eastern Cape that he could not hand over to any other person because it requires him to be present in that particular political committee meeting. And having said that, Chairperson, let me also indicate and welcome to this meeting the Director General, Dr. Phillips, the advisors from the Minister's Office, and all officials that comes from the Department of Water and Sanitation, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen on this virtual platform. Chairperson, as you have already indicated, it is indeed our commitment that we present to yourself the annual performance plan. But at the back of our mind, Chairperson, we must also be reminded by the fact that it has not been easy for the project to be implemented, based on the fact that many of the project had to be halted because of the COVID-19. And as we are talking, Chairperson, most of the projects are running behind, but of the critical challenge, which probably the DG will be able to talk to, is the challenge of the floods in the KZN, Eastern Cape and Northwest, as we have indicated. May the soul of our departed rest in eternal peace, but we believe that for the fact that we've got a war room which is working with the COCTA department in KZN, the Premier's office, all the municipalities that are affected, we definitely will be able to turn the tide in this regard and make sure that what we have attempted to do ourselves will be dealt with as speedily as is possible. Chairperson, I also need to indicate that we had a water and sanitation national summit after the minister and the entire team in the department traversed the length and breadth of our country into the 9 provinces, getting to know what exactly are the issues in the provinces, and have since have resolutions of the summit, and we've got the matrix that we will be following out of this summit. And I think that has also been infused in our annual performance plan. Let me also, if the Chairperson, while speaking about our performance and the targets that we aspire to achieve in this financial year, note that our performance indicators and targets are aligned to the budget, and our budget this financial year is 18 billion rand. So therefore, as we will be working, we will be able to try and tweak here and there so that we are able to accommodate what has been a challenge. Chairperson, let me indicate to yourself that there are several things that we believe we will be able to achieve as a department, or our aspiration is that as we are working, we've got the National Water Resource Institute Agency bill, which is in transit towards Parliament, and we believe that this is one of the things that will be able to deal with the issues. I'm talking here issues of transformation that we're aspiring to work towards. We also, with respect to the aspirations, if you have already indicated, let me indicate that we are also in the process of making sure that we align and make sure that we've got boards that can be able to work towards working with the municipalities, ensuring that work that is being done in the municipalities, we augment and complement that work, because one of the things that has been a serious observation is the fact that there has been those silos that we have been working in, that we provide bulk, municipalities must reticulate, and as per the directive of the minister, we are not a federal department of water and sanitation, but we are a department that must make sure that there is water and there is proper sanitation to the people of the Republic. And I need to also indicate that the President has said in his State of the Nation address that within 90 days, we should be able to issue the water use licenses. And this is one of the things that, Chairperson, I can say without fear that we really are working and doing very well, despite the fact that we started with those that were long in the circulation, over 2 years, some of them over 120, but now we are on track in terms of dealing with the water use licenses. I need to indicate, Chairperson, that one of the precarious situations that we have seen is the challenges of revenue collection from both the department, the water boards, and the municipalities, which actually we are working on. Not only are we working on the situation of revenue collection, but we're also dealing with the billing systems that are there so that we can be able to make sure that all of us, as we bill whoever our client is, we've got proper systems of billing. And I also need to indicate that this year for us is a year that is very good because the department now has a director general, which started from the 1st of April. The department has now a CFO and many other vacancies that have been there. We've got about 2 DDGs that are awaiting cabinet to endorse. So we can safely say that it is no longer that department that used to have skeleton executive management. And for sure, as we're moving forward, we definitely will be able to talk that the department now has got the executive that is has got what it takes and can be able to deliver on our expected outcomes. Chairperson, lastly, I would like to say that there are several projects and mega projects for that matter, which actually will be executed within this financial year. And we hope that despite the challenges that I spoke to of COVID, the challenges of the floods, we definitely will be able to deliver on the outcomes as we have planned for ourselves. And Chairperson, allow me to give to the Director General and team to present to yourself a detailed presentation on our annual performance plan, our targets, and what we aspire to do. And on behalf of the Minister and the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, I so request, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's the Director General here. I'm going to bring up the presentation on the screen.
Honorable Chair, on a point of order.
Yes, Honorable Sileku.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. Greeting everyone. Honorable Chair, I just on a point of clarity, Chair, the date for this particular engagement with the department and the minister, when was it confirmed, and was the minister aware when the confirmation was sent to the committee? And secondly, Chair, political work, we cannot accept someone to do political work and excuse parliament work. So in other words, the party comes before the work of parliament. And thirdly, Chair, some members of the select committee have been in meetings starting from 9 this morning until 3 o'clock. And we are now in this meeting. And then we have an excuse for a minister that is doing political work. After confirmation was given for this particular engagement, I feel, Chair, this is unacceptable and it's a sign of disrespect. Thank you very much, Chair.
No, the minister is not here to answer for himself. As you are aware, it is the deputy minister who related the message and the reason why the minister, the honorable minister, is not here. I'm sure this is a matter that we can take it up with the minister so that we are in tandem and with a better and proper understanding with one another in terms of the importance that we attach to this meeting. I think it suffices. Let's leave it there. We know what the deputy minister has indicated to us, but as I said, we must take it up so that this must not happen in the future. We don't like it. This meeting is important. It is where the minister present these plans to Parliament, and we want to hear it from it's better that we hear it from the horse's mouth. And yeah, I think let's leave it there. We'll take it up with the minister. I'm going to sincerely implore members of Parliament that let us proceed with the meeting. Let's receive the presentation and take it from there. Okay, but noting everything that was said about the absence of the minister in the meeting. All right, thank you very much. Over to you, DG.
Chairperson.
Yes, Deputy Minister Matlaba.
No,
I'd already submitted your apology that you are going to battle, but you will be in and out if it is possible. But the better part of the meeting, you'll be here. And thank you very much that you are here.
No, thanks, Chair. We have covered me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, over to you, DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm going to make a presentation on our 2022-23 annual performance plan, which was submitted to Parliament in March. Chairperson, some of the issues that you indicated that you would like us to cover will be covered in the Minister's budget speech that he'll be making to Parliament and to this House over the next couple of weeks. For example, our response to the floods in KwaZulu-Natal will be covered in the budget speech. They're not covered in this presentation, partly because we submitted the annual performance plan to Parliament in March and the floods took place in April. So the annual performance plan that we're presenting today preceded the floods. I'd just like to start by covering our key strategic priorities for the year before I get into the targets and timeframes and key outcomes and outputs and indicators in the annual performance plan. One of our key functions is the Department of Water and Sanitation, is water resource management, which involves doing reconciliation studies and doing plans for ensuring that there's adequate supply to meet demand for water in terms of bulk water infrastructure. And in that regard, we have a range of major bulk water resource infrastructure projects that are at various stages of planning or implementation across the country. Honourable Chair and members, with all of these projects that we're doing and other projects that we've done over the years, the country is reaching the limits of what can be provided through surface water resources. And it's also very important for us now to guide and lead the development of other water resources in addition to surface water, including groundwater and desalination. And this is becoming a growing strategic priority for us. Chairperson, in order to do all the new and planned bulk water resource infrastructure that is required to ensure that the supply of water doesn't become a constraint to growth in the future, we need to raise a huge amount of money for investment in national water resource infrastructure. And that is the main reason why we are working on the establishment of the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. The agency will be created by amalgamating the TCTA, the water trading entity in the department, and the infrastructure branch of the department. And the assets which are currently owned by the department and managed by the infrastructure branch will be transferred to the NWRA. So the NWRA as an institution will have a very substantial balance sheet. And we would like to see it reach a situation where it's able to raise much more money on the markets than is currently raised by the TCTA, and that at least part of that funding that is able to raise is not necessarily guaranteed by National Treasury. The progress that we're at so far is that, as the Deputy Minister indicated, the NWRIA is currently before the clusters in government. After that, it will go to Cabinet with a recommendation for it to be submitted to Parliament for processing by Parliament. We've also at an advanced stage of finalising the business plan for the NWRIA, which has to be jointly approved by the Ministers of Water and Sanitation and Finance. We've been working intensively with National Treasury on drafts of the business plan. Chairperson and members, while we're doing all of this work, which has traditionally been our main focus as the Department of Water and Sanitation, we also have the view, and our Minister has stated publicly, that we need to do much more as the National Department of Water and Sanitation to support and intervene in municipalities where municipal water and sanitation services are failing. Traditionally, the department's involvement in municipal water services is largely focused on the management of the two major grants which we provide to municipalities, but we want to in future be much more extensively involved in supporting and intervening in municipalities. And the Minister is of the view that the national government, in terms of the Constitution and the Water Services Act and the National Water Act, also has a strong responsibility to support and intervene in municipalities, and that therefore the national government must take responsibility as well for problems with water and sanitation at municipal level. And this is going to be a major strategic focus for us in the current year and in future years, to do much more as the department to support and intervene at municipal level. Part of that will also involve strengthening our regulatory interventions to address pollution of the environment and communities from wastewater. Honourable members, you would have seen that we released the Green Drop report in March, which was a comprehensive review of the state of wastewater treatment systems across the country, and is one of our key regulatory interventions in that regard. But it not only identifies where there are problems in wastewater treatment system at municipal level, it also identifies the causes of the problems and what needs to be done to address them. And we will be engaging in detail with the worst performing municipalities to assist them to develop plans to address the challenges with wastewater treatment systems, which are increasing at municipal level. And we will also use our grants to focus on supporting municipalities to address these problems. One of the objectives that the President has set for us in his State of the Nation's addresses is to be part of the process of removing unnecessary bureaucratic obstacles to growth and investment. And in that regard, a key challenge for us as the Department of Water and Sanitation is to improve our turnaround times for water use license applications. And related to that is for us to promote transformation in water use in the country. We have now for a year or two been focusing on improving our water use licenses, turnaround times. We did a detailed diagnostic study of the causes of delays in the issuing of water use licenses, resulting in a comprehensive improvement plan, which is in the process of being implemented, which includes a range of elements such as creating additional posts, training of staff, improvement of IT systems, and business process re-engineering. And we are on track to meet the targets that we've set in our APP for improving our turnaround times for water use licenses. In the context that South Africa is a water scarce country, that we're reaching the limits of water of surface water use that we can use in the country, it's becoming increasingly important, and of course in the context of climate change, it's becoming increasingly important for us as a department and for indeed the whole country to emphasize water use efficiency and demand and conservation management. And this is a very important strategic priority for us. We will continue to work with industries such as agriculture to increase water use efficiency in high water using sectors, but also particularly to work with municipalities to reduce water losses at municipal level. It's much more cost effective for us to reduce water losses in municipalities than for us to spend many billions of rand developing new water resource infrastructure such as dams, when 40% of that water that comes from the dams is lost through water losses at municipal level. So this is also a major priority for us. And then from an administrative point of view, a major priority for the Minister and I is to ensure that corruption is minimized. We both have a zero tolerance approach to corruption, to reduce irregular, unauthorized and wasteful expenditure, and to ensure consequence management for financial misconduct. Honourable members, contrary to a couple of articles that have been in the Daily Maverick recently, both the Minister and I are committed to ensuring consequence management for financial misconduct. I am personally monitoring on a monthly basis progress with the more than 20 current cases of financial misconduct in the department that are still underway. That's in addition to the 140 odd other cases of financial misconduct which the department has been dealing with over the last 10 years. And we welcome any additional information that we can receive from anywhere that might lead us to have evidence about any financial misconduct by anyone in the department. And I would like to assure the honourable members that we will act on that information appropriately. Honourable members, one of the key underlying causes of problems in the water and sanitation sector is a lack of financial sustainability. The fiscal model in the country for water and sanitation is that they're supposed to be financially self-sustaining, apart from grants to address backlogs, and apart from the portion of the equitable share, which is to fund free basic water for the indigent. But apart from that, the sector is supposed to be self-sustaining. And that means that across the value chain, institutions are supposed to make sufficient money from revenue collection on the water they produce to be able to fund the necessary maintenance and operation and infrastructure development work. However, at the moment, there are huge debts across the value chain, and the underlying root cause of that is weak billing and revenue collection at municipal level. So weak billing and revenue collection at municipal level not only results in a situation where municipalities don't have enough money to do the necessary maintenance and operation work, it also results in a situation where municipalities have developed huge debts to water boards, which supply the municipalities with their water. And as a result of that, the water boards also don't have enough money to do the required maintenance and operation on their infrastructure. And they in turn owe huge debts to the water trading entity in the national department. So the root problem of poor billing and revenue collection at municipal level cascades throughout the water value chain and results in a situation of a lack of financial sustainability across the water value chain. And addressing that, working together with National Treasury and COGTA and SALTA is also a major strategic priority for us for this year and will be in future years as well. Honourable members, we need to have a stable and capacitated department if we're going to make progress with these strategic objectives that I've outlined. And in that regard, good progress has been made by the department in recent months. The Director General position was filled with effect from January. The Chief Financial Officer position was filled with effect from February. Our other two DDG posts which were vacant are currently awaiting confirmation by Cabinet. I think it'll be next week. The Cabinet meeting was delayed due to the floods. All of our regional head positions are filled. and our internal audit position, where the incumbent got a promotion to a post in Parliament. The interviews have taken place and the candidates are currently undergoing assessments, and that will also be filled soon. So moving to the standard outcomes and output indicators in the APP. Honourable members, as you're aware, the contents and format of the APP are regulated by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in the Presidency, and they require us to contain certain standard output indicators with regard to the administration program. And for some of these indicators, they've also provided us with standard targets that we need to include. So we've closely followed the guidance of DPME in the development of our APP. So this first slide shows a number of output indicators with targets with regard to corporate governance regulatory prescripts, including targets. You'll see that we want to be very strong on governance, that we have targets of 100% compliance with the approved audit plan and the risk management plan. It's very important that we build the technical capacity of the department and we reduce our vacancy rate for engineers and scientists. We've struggled in previous years in achieving all of our targets in terms of training interventions, partly because many of our officials have not attended training courses because of their workloads. These targets of 50% are related to historical experience, but we'll have to try and improve that in future. And then these targets that we have for targeted procurement supporting SMMEs are standard targets that are provided to us by the DPME and the Presidency. We've also been engaged in a financial recovery and turnaround plan for the last few years, which has had good success. The department is much more financially stable now than it was a few years ago. And we want to complete that process and fully complete our key actions that we've got to ensure full financial recovery. We've set ourselves a good ambitious target of 100% expenditure on our budget. We didn't achieve that in the last financial year. And the Minister and I are both very concerned about the under expenditure that we had in the last financial year. In fact, we both think that it's completely unacceptable in the context of the water and sanitation challenges facing the country for the department to underexpend on its budgets, particularly its budgets related to infrastructure projects. And it's going to be a major focus for the CFO and I to address this under-expenditure problem in this financial year. We've also got targets related to our international relations program. Given the fact that we share rivers with neighboring countries and the fact that we're implementing the Lesotho Highlands program, we have quite a lot of work to do in terms of international relations as the Department of Water and Sanitation. We also have other water resource management functions related to ecological protection and monitoring river systems, and we've set targets for here in the various catchment agencies. We also need to develop catchment strategies and plans for things like mine water and wastewater treatment works, and there's targets here in that regard. We also need to develop integrated water resource plans, including reconciliation strategies. The reconciliation strategies are very important processes which need to be gone through to make sure that we both invest adequately in new water resource infrastructure, but also that we don't overinvest in water resource infrastructure, that we try and, as far as possible, achieve a balance between supply and demand for water going forward. We also need to have operating rules for our dams so that they're kept safe and so that they perform as they were designed to do so. We are focusing on climate change risks, and we do climate change updates and risk and vulnerability assessments. And we have a number of output indicators related to our monitoring of water systems around the country. And we have quite a broad and substantial infrastructure in place of gauging stations and weirs where we monitor the rivers and the dams around the country on an ongoing basis. As I indicated earlier, we have a range of bulk water resource infrastructure projects in various stages of planning and implementation around the country, and we've set targets for that as well in our APP. It's also very important for us to continue to maintain the dams and our related infrastructure, and we've got targets in that regard as well in the APP. We've also got targets with regard to water resource regulatory prescripts. For some time now, we've been looking at the National Water Act, and we will, during this financial year, be submitting some amendments to Parliament for the National Water Act. We also need to develop a the National Water Resources Strategy that has being finalized and is on its way to Cabinet for approval. On an annual basis, we need to put in place the raw water charges. As I indicated earlier, one of our key priorities for improvement is the processing of water use licenses. And we've set ourselves a target of 80% of our water use licenses being processed within the target of 90 days as set by the President in the State of the Nation address. The reason why we didn't set it at 100% is because there are sometimes some complicated water use license applications which take longer, and also because we're still in the process of implementing our improvement plan. So hopefully in the future years, we'll be able to get closer to 100% within 90 days. We also need to monitor compliance with the conditions of water use licenses and investigate and take action where there's cases of non-compliance. We also need to, as part of our regulation, we need to monitor wastewater treatment. And as I mentioned, we released the Green Drop report in March. We're going to be releasing the Green Drop report every 2 years. The next time we release the Green Drop report will be in 2023, 2024. The reason for that is because it requires a very comprehensive audit of all the wastewater treatment systems in the country. We also are responsible for a number of water resource management institutions in the country. And we've got targets in here related to the performance of these water resource management institutions. We have catchment areas which have been gazetted, and we have a policy to develop catchment agencies. So far, we have 2 catchment agencies, independent ones established in the country, and the other catchment agencies are being run as catchment management agencies from within the department. The Minister is looking at various options for the future for catchment management agencies, which might include an option for, rather than going for fully independent catchment management agencies for the remainder of the catchment management areas, which might include an option of having somewhere in between an independent agency and the department running the service, with a committee representing local stakeholders overseeing the work of the department for some catchment management areas. I've talked about the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agencies. We're in the process of transforming the irrigation boards into water user associations, and we've got targets in that regard as well. We've also, over the past year or two, been doing very detailed research on the potential and the business case and pros and cons of establishing an independent water economic regulator. In other words, a regulator for the water sector, similarly to NERSA that's there for the electricity sector, and the CASA that's there for the telecommunication sector. This research is nearing completion, and we'll be presenting options to the Minister for the way forward, which could include, one of the options will include a fully independent regulator. Another option is for the department to continue doing regulation internally, but there's also a third possible option of, again, having somewhere in between where we have a committee representing independent people who would oversee the regulatory work of the department to give it a degree of independence. Turning to water services, our program for water services, we've got targets for putting in place water conservation and water demand strategies, targets for assessing the number of large water supply systems with water losses. And importantly, honourable members, we also have set ourselves a target for reintroducing the no-drop report, which is similar to the green drop and blue drop regulatory systems, and that it's an incentive-based regulatory mechanism where, together with the municipalities, we will assess the extent of leakages for all the municipalities in the country, and not only identify and quantify the leakages, but also identify the causes of the leakages and what should be done about them, and then focus on working with the worst performing municipalities to help them to put in plans to address water losses. As I mentioned earlier, Honourable Chair, we do manage the regional bulk infrastructure grant. And as part of the requirements for the conditions for that grant, we have to do feasibility studies for the projects which get funded from the grant. And we've put targets in that regard. And we also, in terms of the conditions of the grant, have to do implementation readiness studies. And we've got targets in that regard as well. So we've also got targets for the numbers of regional bulk infrastructure projects funded through the grant over the MTF period. And then our other major grant for municipal infrastructure is the Water Services Infrastructure Grant, and we've got similarly got targets in that regard. With regard to the other area in which we have been traditionally supporting municipalities is to help them put in place 5-year reliability plans, which is about improving the reliability of their water supply. We also do municipal self-assessments, which is a facilitated process with municipalities where they self-assess their water and sanitation functions from various perspectives in order to identify where there's weaknesses and to develop action plans. We've also been looking at the Water Services Act, and we'll be bringing some relatively minor suggested amendments to the Water Services Act to Parliament for approval. We have targets for putting in place 9 provincial action plans with regard to sanitation. And related to that, we're in the process of developing a national plan, which will coordinate together with our regional officers to address sewage spillages around the country, and to utilize our various infrastructure grants to municipalities to focus on the necessary infrastructural work to address the problem of sewage spillages around the country. We also, in addition to the green drop and no drop, we are reintroducing the blue drop regulatory system. When we published the green drop report in March, we also published a progress report for the blue drop report, and the final blue drop report will be issued this financial year, and it will also then be issued every 2 financial years. Perhaps at this point, I should mention that in terms of the strategic priority that I talked about earlier of us strengthening our support and intervention to municipalities, that support and intervention will be based on evidence coming out of the blue and green drop report, the MUSA assessments, the work of our regional officers with the municipalities. And we intend to put in place a dashboard, a publicly visible dashboard, based on with a number of indicators indicating the state of water and sanitation services in all the municipalities. And that evidence-based dashboard will be used as the basis for us developing plans on a provincial basis with our provincial officers for support and intervention to address the key issues coming out of the evidence-based dashboard. And that the aim there is for us to move from the current situation where we tend to support and intervene in municipalities on an ad hoc basis to a much more systematic approach where we systematically develop support and intervention plans per province based on the evidence in the dashboard that we'll be putting in place. At national level, we plan to put in place a range of support programs on which our provincial officers will be able to draw from to be able to put in place customized support and intervention initiatives in various municipalities based on what is required from the assessment of the dashboard results. As the chairperson indicated, we also need to oversee the water boards. We've got targets in here about our oversight over the water boards as well. Honourable Chairperson, in terms of our policy, we did have a policy objective at one point in the draft policy documents of the department to create regional water utilities. That notion of regional water utilities is still under consideration from a policy point of view in the department, and that explains why we've got 0 targets for that in the APP for that period. Honourable Chair, with your permission, I'd like to now hand over to our acting DDG for water services, Toko Sigwaza, to take you through some more detail on the grant-funded projects per province.
Thank you, DG, Honorable Chair, DMs, and honorable members. The next slide, on slide 27, it gives a summary of the scale of the program that we are managing in terms of the regional bulk and the water services infrastructure grants. This slide indicates that we have about 526 projects in the country. It's a huge scale nationally, and it also indicates the split according to the provincial allocations. I'm not going to go to the finances because the CFO is going to deal with the finances, but I would just like to spend time on this slide because it does summarize what the 526 projects that we are implementing during this financial year. It indicates those projects that are under construction and those that we will be completing by end of this financial year. We are going to complete 137 projects by end of March, and the rest will continue as it is a multi-year program. It also indicates the bucket sanitation projects, the program that we are running currently in the formal areas of Northern Cape and Free State. And we have 10,798 buckets that we should be connecting to the bulk water supply, to the bulk wastewater treatment works by end of March 2023. That is the commitment that we have made in our annual performance plan. Also, the slide indicates the 2 intervention projects that we are currently busy with and we are continuing with during this financial year. In Gauteng, the Section 63 intervention in Mfuleni
the Val River intervention program is continuing, and in Limpopo, the Giyani water project is also proceeding. So, Chairperson, that is the summary of all the projects that we are currently, the numbers that we are currently running in the country, the 526 projects that we are managing. Then I will go through each province, not in detail, Chairperson. I will only highlight mainly the mega and large projects that make the mega projects are those that are above the 1 billion rand that are of significance in each area. So if you look at the direct grant in terms of Eastern Cape, what goes directly to municipalities and it's managed by municipalities, the projects are listed there. We are supporting Chris Hani, Joe Kabi, and OR Tambo. The OR Tambo, the King Sabata Talindebo water supply project is an old project, but still continuing, and it's going to supply the bulk water supply across Umtata areas and also the villages. And the issue of the Konga bulk water supply, it also supports the transfer scheme, and also it includes the development of a water treatment plant for the Makibini villages. So in terms of the Chris Hani bulk water supply, about 31 villages will benefit from the intervention over the next 3 years. And the Middleburg groundwater supply project, it's mainly the refurbishment of bores, and it should be, it's going to the completion phase around the operations and maintenance. In terms of the Free State, we are only mentioning currently where we do direct transfers, where the municipalities are managing the program. We have the Roxville water supply, which involves the upgrade of water treatment works, and it also involves the construction of a 27-kilometer pipeline. And also the key one is the Setsoto bulk water supply, and which includes both the pipeline and also the building of the 11 water treatment works for 11 the water treatment work in the Senegal area. And also the Ngwate bulk pipeline to Eden Vale, it's a critical one in the Free State. And in KwaZulu-Natal, the most of the projects are in the northern part of KZN, which includes the Mandlakazi bulk water supply in the Zululand area, the Greater Mtonjaneni in King Cetshwayo, in around Inkandla local municipality, and also the Middle Drift, which is also under the Inkandla local municipality. And there's one on the southern part, which is the Greater Bulwa in Donnybrook, which is under the Herigwala district municipality. In Limpopo, the main project is around the Polokwane wastewater treatment works, the integrated wastewater treatment work, and also the bulk supply for the Polokwane town. And in Mpumalanga, the main ones are around the northern Insikazi is still at feasibility stage, which is will cover, it's at the Kanzeni district municipality, and also will cover the city of Mbombela, and the others are at the first one. It's at 78%, and the Msugaligwa is at 46% in terms of status. The following one in the Northern Cape, we have those the 3 projects: Calvinia bulk water supply, the Cosmos Beck, and also the CAR2. And the Calvinia should be completed in the next financial year. The Northwest project includes the Taung Naledi, which is mainly the abstraction from the Taung Dam, and the Greater Mamusa bulk water supply, which is to increase the capacity of the Bloom Wharf water treatment works in order to make additional capacity to supply the area. And then they are all under the Dr. Ruth district municipality. And then in the Western Cape, we have listed the 2 projects, Tulva and the Claver bulk water projects. And the others are a range of remedial works that needs to be done in the province. So those are the main bulk water supply projects under the RBIC. And the following ones, I'm not, Chairperson, going to go into detail because they are about 200. It's they fall under what we refer as the Water Services Infrastructure Grant, but they are all listed in the slides, from slides 38 up until I think before slides 84. We also have they are also listed in the APP from page 254 up to page 267. So honorable members can spend a lot of time in reading all the listed projects. Chairperson DG, with your permission, I can hand over to CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, DG, Honorable Chairperson, and DMs. I'll take you through the budget of the department. In the 2022 ENE, the department has been allocated 59.6 billion over the MTF. This is distributed in 3 years. In the year that we are implementing the current APP, 18.5 billion has been allocated. And I can also confirm, Chairperson, that this 18.5 billion has been costed, and the department has aligned its strategic plans together with the APP, as well as the procurement plans to ensure that we deliver on the plans that has been presented by the DG as well as my colleague. Included in the allocation is the budget for personnel compensation of employees, which is 5.4 billion over the MTF period. There is a decline in the second year of the MTF that is due to the fiscal direction that the government is taking. We have to reduce the headcount in that year, and the department is thus reviewing its structure now to make sure that the organizational structure is properly aligned, and also to link it to the limited resources that have been made available. And goods and services is 5.5 billion over the MTF, and we also have 34.9 billion over the MTF. These are transfers and subsidies. A significant portion of these transfers and subsidies are allocated to the municipalities, and that also links with what the DG was reflecting, the support and oversight over the municipalities to ensure that these transfers are utilized for the intended purposes. And we also have payments for capital assets. These are the projects where the department is directly implementing through the municipalities some projects, and at the end of the completion of the project, these assets are transferred to the municipalities as transfers in kind. We can move to the next slide. The next slide, Chairperson, reflects the main factors that are contributing to the increase on the budget for the department. In the main, there is an increase of 1.1 billion, which is made up of allocations that were made through the budget facility for infrastructure, which is for the following projects. We have an allocation for the RBIG Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant for the George Local Municipality to implement the potable water security and remedial works project. There's also an allocation of 195 million for the raising of the Glen William Dam. And also in Limpopo, there's 422 million allocated in the 22-23 financial year. This is for the Olifants and Ebenezer Water Supply Scheme through the Lepelle Northern Water Board. There's also further allocation of 193 million through Umgeni Water Board to implement the Umkomazi Bulk Water Supply Scheme. All these projects, Chairperson, are long-term projects which will have a serious impact in those communities in terms of job creation and also changing the lives of those communities that we are implementing this project in. The next slide reflects the programs and the economic classification of the 18.5 billion that has been allocated to the department. The various programs are reflected there, with quite a lot of funds being allocated to water services branch, the one where our municipalities are also located, and also under transfers and subsidies, 6.2 billion has been allocated for the provinces and municipalities. So that is where the significant portion of the budget has been allocated. And over the MTF, the total allocation for the department is 59 billion. Program 1 is supporting the department, and the total allocation for the 22-23 financial year is 2 billion, and over the MTF is 6.1 billion, my apologies. And you can see, Chairperson, these sub-programs range from ministry to provincial and international coordination. Those are the sub-programs which are supporting the running of the department. Water resources management, over the MTF, 13 billion has been allocated to this program. This program is largely responsible for water resource planning, as well as infrastructure development. This is where our water trading entity transfers are also allocated. Program 3 is water service management. Over the MTF, 40.4 billion has been allocated to this program. And as indicated earlier on, a significant amount of money goes towards the municipalities to support the grants that DG reflected on earlier on. We also have 13.2 billion, which is being spent by the department as indirect grants to those specific municipalities. The next slide reflects summary of infrastructure allocations from the regional bulk infrastructure allocations, water services infrastructure grant. There are also various water boards that we are allocating funds for. They are implementing a number of projects on behalf of the department, and they are all listed there, from Mahalis Water, Umgeni, as well as Sidibeng and Lepelle Northern Water. And there are also transfers to the water trading entity for various projects, which includes the acid mine drainage and other capital projects, the Glen William Dam, which I referred to earlier on, and also the operations and maintenance of our resources. There's also a transfer to the Komati Basin Water Authority, which works with the Eswatini government. The allocation distributed per province are reflected on the screen. We have the direct grants, that is the 6B of the Division of Revenue Act. In total, we have 8.1 billion allocated throughout the various provinces, except for Gauteng. And also we have those projects that we are implementing directly as a department through water boards and municipalities as implementing agents, and the total allocation for those is 10.8 billion. Water Service Infrastructure Grant is another grant that we are implementing, and is also split into two. The first allocation is the indirect allocation, the direct allocation, which is allocated directly to the municipalities. Those municipalities are going to receive over the MTF 11.6 billion. And we also have 2.4 billion where the department will be implementing the project directly, as I indicated, also through those municipalities and water boards. And included in the Water Services Infrastructure Grant allocation is the bucket eradication program. This is where we have allocated funds for the eradication of those. The next slide, 10% reflects the water trading entity. This is the account through which we sell water, the water provision that we are making. The allocation in the 22-23 financial year is reflected, and the various programs are also reflected. A significant amount of allocation here goes towards a TCTA for the financing and investment in raw water infrastructure, the repayment of loans, and this is financed through the recoveries that we are making through the tariffs that we charge for the water. There are also augmentation projects that we are implementing through the water trading entity. And over the MTF, we have indicative allocations of 6.4 billion. And in the current year, the 22-23, which we are implementing, those projects amounts to 1.6 billion. All of them are listed there, from Loti River Development, including Zanin Dam. So all of these are funded through the fiscus and as well as the funding through TCTA. I think, yeah. The next slide, Chairperson, I won't go through them. These are the detailed slides, which I will skip, and we should be able to conclude now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. That brings us to the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much for the presentations. Before we engage, can I check with the Deputy Minister any word from you before we engage with the presentation? Deputy Minister?
Chairperson, thank you very much. I think the DG and team have really presented the thrust of our anticipation in this financial year, but also indicate to yourself, Chairperson, that from time to time, whenever there are other issues, we will always touch base with your good self, honorable members, to indicate where we're having situations which we believe Parliament should be able to make intervention around. And I think I need to indicate, Chairperson, that for now, we will hear from your good self the guidance that you'll be giving to the department on the matter of our APP and our targets and what we intend to perform in this financial year. Let me stop there, Chairperson. We will be guided by your good self. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, DM, for that. Now, honorable members, it's time to engage with the APP and the budget of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Can I take hands for those who want to ask questions?
Chairperson, I think you need to rotate your picture because it's yeah.
You look proper now.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's okay.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Is Honorable Mahlobo there?
Yeah, I'm still listening. I'm waiting for questions and guidance.
Oh, yes, okay. I thought I saw you moving out. I thought that you were out. But if you want to talk before questions, you are free to do that. Or if you want to respond to the questions and comments, you can do that at the later stage. Anything's okay with us. Okay, let me take hands. I see Honorable Mikalakis, Honorable Shaikh, and Honorable Fesser. In that order first. Over to you, Honorable Mikalakis.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, there is one specific part of the presentation that I do want to welcome very much, and that is the comment of the DG, Dr. Phillips, indicating that if there are any indications of corruption on any of the projects, that they will surely act on the information appropriately. I think that is very welcome. Chairperson, it relates to my one question. I just want to focus on one specific thing, but it is going to require some background. On the 2nd of December last year, in the House with oral questions, I asked the Deputy Minister if she would be willing to investigate the appointment of the new contractor for the Wynberg bulk water supply project. It's a 275 million rand is being budgeted for it over the next 3 years. And the Deputy Minister gave an undertaking in the House to say that she will investigate these circumstances. I have gone back to the Hansard. I would like to know whether that investigation has been embarked on and how far the department is with that investigation. Just to give a bit of background, Chairperson, this massive project in Wynberg, where I'm sitting right now, was designed by a specific engineer. They did the work, they did all the feasibility studies, they designed the project, and when they started to implement it, the municipality dismissed them without following the service level agreement, telling them that they delayed the project. Now, I supplied to the provincial representatives of the Department of Water and Sanitation a full timeline proving that it wasn't the contractor that delayed the project. That was given to the Department of Water Sanitation during our recent provincial week visits. Now, that contractor was then replaced by the municipality responsible for implementing the project, was replaced by another contractor. And this other contractor seems to have some dodgy links in terms of its former directorship, as well as that it is from the same town, just happens to be as the municipal manager. They are using the previous contractor's work, and the previous contractor has not yet been paid. His business is at this stage suffering. He is employing people. So my questions, Chair, simply relates to this, and they are as follows. How far is the investigation into the dismissal of the initial contractor and the appointment of the new one? Secondly, I would very much like to know when the contractor who did the initial work is going to be paid for the work and what he is due, because his business is suffering. And thirdly, I would like to know whether the department would be willing to take control of this project and take it over. The reason why I'm asking this is because, as I indicated, it's a 275 million rand project that's going to be implemented over the next 3 years. This municipality that's seemingly supposed to implement it has a 16% collection rate. They've already been shown as not very trustworthy in the implementation of this project. And I fear that if 275 million rand gets paid over to them over the next 3 years to do this project, that we're not going to see the results that are required. So in light of the comments of the DG, may I please get some assurance about these 3 questions regarding the water pipeline in Wynberg, that project. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mikalakis. Honorable Sheikh.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Ministers and the department for their presentation. And I think that what was said also by the DG around the involvement of the department at the level of municipalities, as well as taking responsibility for water service delivery. I think it's a very positive and important step. Chair, I think in terms of the presentation, what was not necessarily covered in depth was around the assessment of the water service authorities in terms of water service performance. I know the indicator is there, but it wasn't necessarily elaborated on. But if the department could maybe provide us with more information around that, but also in terms of the assessment of water service authorities, what has been the findings of the department around these, and what initiatives or plans is the department putting in place to support and or capacitate water service authorities? Because in our engagement in provinces, it's clear that there is a lack of capacity at the level of water service authorities. And also in addition to that, how is the department also utilizing the district development model platform? And at what level is the department engaging in that platform? Seeing that they are a national department. Chair, the other issues around the focus on climate change and its impact on water resources. I think it's important addressing the water conservation issue and the management of the areas around the dam and the catchment. And these are very important issues. But what I want to know from the department is, do they also monitor the siltation levels in dams? And whether they've actually assessed whether areas around dams are managed from a conservation point of view, as well as an access point of view, because you find a lot of the dams are not managed in terms of access, and people enter. There's recreation facilities that are happening there and whatever else. And I'm also talking of an experience from when we visited the De Work Dam in Limpopo. There's no such management of that area, and even the fence around the dam has been cut, but there seems to be no such control. And I'm not sure in which other dams such a situation actually exists. Chair, the other issue is around the bucket eradication program. And I think it's unfortunate that such a thing still exists. And I know that it was expected that this program or the bucket system should have been eradicated in 2021. But what is the department doing about it, or what is the new timeline in terms of when we expect the bucket eradication program to be eradicated? Chair, the understanding on infrastructure, the DG did mention that himself and the CFO will be looking into this matter, but perhaps he can enlighten us in terms of how they expect to turn this around. And then again, Chair, around fruitless, wasteful, irregular, and unauthorized expenditure and consequence management. What is happening around consequence management with regard to the Guyana bulk water project collapse that happened? There were allegations of corruption. What is happening around this matter as well? Who is being held accountable, and is there consequence management actually happening, especially in that particular case? I think that's all from my side. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sheikh, followed by Honorable Fisher.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, DG. Thank you, Deputy Minister, for being here and for sharing this information and this very nice presentation to us. Chair, I just want to bring it to the attention of the DG that according to what he has presented to us, if we look at the water services licenses, especially in the Northwest and parts of the Free State I know there are also farmers that now all has to have water licenses. Some of those water licenses being processed by the Kimberley office of the department is now more than 3 years outstanding. It's water that they have to utilize to feed, to supply cattle, some of them for irrigation purposes. But lawyers just complain. They say they cannot. They send letter upon letter, and nothing is forthcoming from the Kimberley office with regards to water licenses. My biggest concern, however, is the integrated fall system that we have, and the toxicity that is constantly, continuously ignored. If I think back it started way back in 2009 when I was part of the National Water Forum, where we visited these rivers, and we got this pollution of timelessly. Municipalities can do just whatever they like. They don't even look at their newly built plants. They start it, as soon as it overflows, it goes into the rivers. When last did the department issue directives and really acted and fined municipality according to the allowances in the Water Act and the Water Services Act? It is a disgrace to see what is going on in the VAL system. Just recently, as the first one started way back in the 31st of January, and then again on the 11th of April, fish died just below the plant of Sasol in Secunda. And there was toxic stuff in there. Was the farmers and people downstream informed of this? And if we, as the department that has the authority to be the custodian of water in South Africa, if we do not guard our waters and see that our waters and our rivers and all our water resources and aquifers and whatever is not contaminated, what will our people, those after us, from what will they stay alive? How will they drink water? If absolutely every stream, every river, you can go anywhere in South Africa, you will find water pollution is just, you have to live with it. And then I don't even talk about towns that don't have reticulation systems, where boreholes are, and all those boreholes are contaminated. I have visited towns where boreholes are contaminated to such an extent that it's not fit for human or animal consumption. That has to stop. I would like to know from the DG, what are they going to do about the constant contamination of municipalities that are water services providers, district municipalities that are water authorities? What are they going to do about these? Even Sedibeng and the water boards, I call now Sedibeng because that's the one I'm the most known with. But what are they going to do with these people that absolutely ignores the condition and the quality that we are now polluting water into? I also want to ask the DG about the war on leakages. When I was still with the Department of Water and Sanitation formerly, there was this huge thing going on, I know, of buildings standing deserted that was specially built. I think it was something at the time of 6 billion that was spent, that were through Rand Water. I think it went through them. They did most of the training. What happened to this? Because all over the country, you will see water leakages. And what happened to all those people that were trained to see, to find water leakages and to repair water leakages so that we can get the water to the consumer and not spill it next to the road? And then I want, the further crisis is our regression in of our capacity in terms of our water authorities. How are we going to ensure in the future, and what are we going to do about it now, that water authorities comply with what they are legislated to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Professor. Any other hand? Any other hand? Are you all okay? If that is the case, I also want to make some, am I okay? Is my, I hope that I don't disappoint you, that this gadget.
You must try the landscape again. You have just moved your head around. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm battling. Yes, if that's the case, let me just make some comments and ask questions like all other members who have already done so. Firstly, for me, there is no doubt that this department is extremely important in the context of South Africa and the challenges of water and sanitation that we are facing. Now, the difficulty with this presentation this afternoon is that it doesn't take us back to check the extent in which all the questions which were asked in the past, all the comments made, all the commitments that the department said will fulfill are made. That extent is not there so that we mustn't keep on asking the same questions with regard to the department. Now, DG, you have inherited a department which was problematic, very, very problematic. A department riddled with a lot of problems, and in the main, these problems were around the leadership of the department. The first question that I think you need to respond to is, in addition to your appointment, to what an extent have the senior positions in the department filled? Are we still having a problem of vacancies in the department? Because at some point, there were lots of suspensions of senior officials in the department because of issues which border on financial misconduct and so on and so forth. And there were other general vacancies in the department. What is the current situation as of now? This department had a problem with regard to spending, especially on infrastructure. I hear you saying in the presentation that you intending spending 100% of the budget. That's what you are saying. You are telling this committee. And that just last year you have not spent all of your budget. But you have not told us, in the light of the fact that in the past, there was slow expenditure, especially on infrastructure. How much have you spent the past financial year? We need to talk about that so that we must understand whether the problems which were raised with regard to the leadership of the department itself, have they been attended to or not, and that these expenditures have improved. There was a stage where 1.9 billion rands had to be rolled over because of non-expenditure, and that was on infrastructure. And we all know that. What does it mean if money on infrastructure is not spent? It has profound negative implications for the department. There was a project called War on Leaks. That program, what has happened, not really what has happened to it. How have you dealt with the unauthorized expenditure that was incurred with regard to that particular project? A year ago or 2 years ago, there was about 640 million rand that was declared an authorized expenditure, and you need to deal with this particular matter. It's an important matter. This project had good intentions, and unfortunately, because of this and that reason, and the reasons that I've already alluded to, it became a flop, it became a failure, and it didn't achieve its own objectives. What has happened, and how have you dealt with the 640 that was declared an unauthorized expenditure with regard to that project? There was a big problem with regard to your accruals and payables, especially with regard to both the department and as well as the water trading entity. About 3 billion rand was declared accruals and payables, and that technically made the department bankrupt. And this situation is unacceptable because it was happening when we had leadership in the department. How have you dealt with that particular situation? And you don't give us a sense in terms of your plan, because part of the recommendations of this committee 2 years ago was to say, we need a very, very systematic plan, a very, very solid, tight, systematic plan to attend to these particular issues and give us feedback on how you are dealing with these particular issues. There was a big problem of your contingency liabilities. And how has this been catered for in the current financial year, where people take you to court and institute claims against the department? And that symbolizes or signifies the fact that the department has got a lot of problems because its stakeholders and people who work for the department with the department, they can easily take you to court. And there was a stage where they were exceeding 100 million rand, just people who were suing the department in that respect. And we welcome the fact that with your presence as the DG does signal the fact that you are trying to stabilize the department at that level, but how, the extent in which you have stabilized that, and what is the outstanding work in terms of making sure that all the necessary positions, especially senior positions, are filled in the department itself. 2 years ago, there was a problem about 60,000 households in the country, especially in the Free State, in the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape, where people still without using the bucket system. And we were objecting to that. We were saying you can't claim that water is life, sanitation is dignity. When 28 years after the advent of our new democratic dispensation, there are still people who are using the buckets. And at that stage, there were about 60,000 people, households, who were using the bucket system. What is the program to eradicate that? Especially when a decision was taken ages ago that by 2007, we would have eradicated all the bucket systems in our country. For me, sitting here as a member of parliament, I want to register this. It's unacceptable that people still use buckets. And we need you to tell us, in what way are you attending to this problem to ensure that at the end of the day, there are no people who are using buckets in our country? There was also a big problem that this presentation has not spoken to. The problem around the toilets, proper sanitary facilities in our schools. 2 years ago, there were 4,000 schools without proper sanitary facilities, 4,000 schools. And the president made a commitment during SONA of 2020 that a program called Safe Learning Environment Initiative for education will be unfolded to ensure that we eradicate all the pit latrines and all the unwarranted facilities at the level of the 4,000 schools. Is this still your priority? How are you implementing this program and how far it is? And in the context of the current budget, how have you budgeted for that? Because we don't accept that. We don't accept that children, young children, as old as 6 or 7 years, they get killed because they were pressed, they wanted to go to the toilet in their schools, especially in the rural areas. How have you dealt with that particular situation? And we have said that we need to ensure that we attend to all these particular issues. I can see that there is some energy that is oozing to deal with these particular issues, but all that we need is a clear-cut commitment on the part of both the political leadership and the administrative leadership of this department to ensure that we give attention to all of these issues. When we have money allocated to you, you spend it for the purpose intended, and you do not have rollovers, because that is unacceptable. Your budget of 18 billion is not sufficient, really, in the light of the challenges that we are facing in respect of water. It's nothing. It's nothing. It will not help us to achieve our millennium sustainable goals. It will not help us to achieve that. But it becomes worse when the department itself doesn't spend even the little that has been allocated to it. I want you to respond to all of this. Other than that, we will say it, that we want to work with you, we want to support you, we want you at the same time to help us as a committee of parliament to exercise our powers, to do our oversight function, to ensure that these things that you mentioned in your plan are getting implemented. With that, I think let's get some responses from you in respect of the questions and the comments that members have made at the stage. Over to you, Deputy Minister. You will guide us in terms of how we must proceed in responding to the questions.
I will suggest, Chair, through you and Mama Katz and the other members, we come first at a political level, and we allow the DG and the team to come in. And like Mama Katz has made the presentation to you, honorable members, we are a new ministry, in as much as we're an old department. One of the issues that we've engaged with you in this current administration was the question of stabilizing the department. And since Minister Mtunu, Tigere Makats, and myself were assigned by President as a new ministry, you will know that, honorable members, we have a Director General that we appointed in less than 3 months when we're in office. And which is a very important thing, because that department had no DG over quite a long period of more than 4 to 5 years. The CFO was subsequently appointed. The DDG Corporate Services is also in place. As Mama Katsi, we are expecting Cabinet next week, Wednesday, to consider the appointment of the 2 DDGs. One specifically for water services, because the water service provision is an important component for this department in supporting municipalities, but also the DDG responsible for regulation. Therefore, when it comes to the stabilization of the top management of the department, is a priority of Minister Mtunu. But at the very same time, we're not only stabilizing them, we're also stabilizing entities. Entities must have very strong boards, must also have the executive position being filled. I thought I should be able to raise that point, Chair. Secondly, Chairperson, the financial position of the department has improved. It has improved over time, unlike when we came in when we were going concern. One of the undertaking, Chair, we made was that we need to produce a financial turnaround plan. A financial turnaround plan was produced in the department. The only issue that I think we should deal with, Chair, is the department is available to come and have that particular discussion with yourselves. How have we performed on that financial turnaround plan? Secondly, one of the other issues that we're to deal with, and Minister Mtunu has prioritized it with ourselves, is the fight against corruption and malfeasance. The example of Guyani and a number of other areas They work around the clock with the Special Investigation Unit, the Hawks, and the other agencies, including our own internal audit unit and risk. Very active, Chair. They've done a lot of investigations. We are not sitting with them. The DG has acted very decisively around concluding some of the outstanding issues. But some of these matters, they have taken longer than expected. But this is one issue, Chair. We will want a dedicated period where yourselves as members of the Select Committee of our national councils will want to brief you, because there are those amongst us who want to create an impression that the department is a safe haven for criminals and corrupt elements. And we'll want to report on how far we've gone and some of the systems that we are putting in place in dealing with issues of corruption, Chair. Chairperson, the other matter that we wanted to report is that when the leadership came in, we've done provincial visits in a number of provinces. We have concluded it. It culminated what we call it the National Water Summit. That was very successful. That even Parliament was actually represented. And there was a program of action, Chair, that came out of those summits, including working with business and the issues of partnership. If you look at our plans right now, it is a responsive plan because it's informed by the material conditions that we are finding on the ground. We must admit, Chairperson, local government is the most important sphere to all of us. There is no member of parliament or NCOP who doesn't belong to one municipality or the other. A number of our municipalities, Chair, they are not in good shape. They require our support in terms of Section 154 of the Constitution. But there are areas where we've made a decision through Minister Mtunu that we are going to place the water boards at the disposal of these municipalities, because the ultimate authority, if these water services authority, they don't function, national government must intervene. That's why when you look at our work, we are intervening at Mfuleni. It has taken time, but there's progress that is being made. We are intervening at Mkanyagude. We are intervening around the Limpopo. We are intervening in Tshwane, because even the metros themselves are actually struggling, Chair. On the question of sanitation, Chair, we must admit we have not done well as a country. We have not done well even on our own target of 2021. We have not met that target. But one of the things that Minister has noticed is the absence of a national framework for sanitation. We are treating South Africans in an indifferent way, where others are having ablution facilities that you can flush, which is the sewer system. Others, they don't have a sewer system. Now that this national sanitation framework is actually been finalized by the department, we are considering that it will go through the various cabinet structures and for consultation, because South Africans, as we have correctly said, they too, their dignity must be protected. Therefore, the issues of sanitation, the numbers you could look at it, Chair, but this is a moving target. The more our people continue to settle in an informal way is causing problems. The more the traditional leaders, if they are not working closely with local government, the issues of spatial planning and town planning and regional planning is a very important aspect in our lives, so that we ensure that access to services is taken care of. The last matter I thought I should speak to, Chair, is the question of pollution that the other colleague has raised. Our attitude towards pollution is that our citizens must live in an environment that is not harmful. That's what the law says we must do. We are actually noticing that South Africa is not going to run out of water. But the problem in South Africa will face is that because of human activities, the quality of water is deteriorating all the time. Mining is causing the biggest problems. especially leaving those mines abandoned and causing high levels of metals that are there. That's why you discuss the question of acid mine drainage. And we are working with the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy to deal with these issues that there is a lot of water underground, but it was polluted by mines. Why should the South African public must be able to pay for something that they have not polluted? Other industries, they too, including agriculture, manufacturing, and including local government in terms of their wastewater treatment plants, they are polluting. What is our position as a department? One is that people must not pollute, but those who pollute, they will pay. The polluter will pay. That principle will apply. That's why we are concluding now as a department the policy on the waste charge discharge system so that we can do that. But internally, there is an anti-pollution task team. We are increasing the capacity for monitoring and an enforcement. There are a number of cases that the acting DDG, Leonardo Manas, is working around those particular issues. But pollution must be able to stop. We agree that we need to do that, but we must also do community campaigns where citizens, they must not pollute our rivers, because that's the only heritage we have that we must leave for the next generation. We are attending on that particular issue, but government alone and the department alone will not be able to do some of those issues leadership. But I will then say Mama Kasi will also come in, and then the DG and the team will deal with some of those issues that are specific. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GM Mahlobo. Let me indicate, Chairperson, that when it comes to school sanitation, the Minister has, together with the Minister of Basic Education, have got discussions which are currently going on so that we can be able to know how to deal with sanitation in schools. And indeed, this is one of the precarious issues that we have to deal with, and deal with it as speedily as possible. Because for us to can be able to live up to the constitutional requirement of dignity in everything that we do, particularly on sanitation, we have to start with our children so that they are safe when they are at school. And I think it also, Dear Mahlobo has spoken to the issue of the moving target when it comes to eradication of bucket systems. And for as long as there is no coordination between the municipalities, the traditional leaders, when there are new settlements which are happening, we will always see a situation where it is like nothing is happening. But I think the DDG Sigwaza will be able to talk to the issues on bucket eradication. Chairperson, I also wanted to talk to we're working very close and we're trying to implement the district development model, because if you look at the way we are working in almost all the municipalities, we make sure that whenever we deal with the issues, the province is involved, the municipality is involved, and most of the time we always implore on the municipalities to say, we're bringing in this much, how much are you bringing in? Because it can be that situation where you would always be seeing people coming cap in hand, we don't have money, our infrastructure is not in a good condition, because in essence, the leakages that you see, the non-revenue water that we see in the municipalities is precisely because the infrastructure in the municipalities are really infrastructure that need to be improved in this regard. But working with the municipalities within the district development model, we're working very, very hard to make sure that we can be able to assist them to improve their infrastructure, but at the same time, we work with them, even assisting with capacity, because most of the municipalities do not have the capacity, and therefore, when we enter, we don't just look at financial issues, we look at in totality. What are the things that we can be able to work with the municipality to can be able to assist that municipality to get out of the challenges that are there. Earlier on, I spoke to the question that we're working with the municipalities to make sure that we can be able to have proper billing systems. We can be able to have assist them in revenue collection. And these are but some of the few things that one can be able to mention. And in particular, we work with, as we were traveling throughout the country, part of the things that we have realized is, let me say, particularly in the Western Cape, the Water Services Authority, almost every municipality is a water service authority. And that is one of the things that the minister has looked at to say, how do we now make sure that we have water services authority that can be able to really live up to what they are expected to do? Because in some instances, you will find that, let me give an example that when I went to Musina, the Musina municipality was up in arms to say, we've got Bembe district as a water services authority. They are not helping us. We want to pull out of this situation and be a water service authority on our own. And you can see some of the frustration that some of the municipalities are coming in. But we're looking into the situation of Water Services Authority in totality to say, how do we now deal with this where the Water Service Authority is unable to assist, or where the Water Service Authority doesn't even have a plan within its area of operation as to how are they going to deal with the situation. So these are the things that we're looking into. Chairperson, I also would want to say, Dear Matlo has spoken to the issues of the quality of water and pollution. And I want to come in this instance that you as the National Council of Provinces, whenever you do your outreach program, it is important that we remind our communities that polluting our natural resources is definitely one of the things that we find ourselves in a precarious situation where in one area, when we go to Tebeja, it's drought. In another area, when you go up in KZN, there are floods. And these are the things that we need to be realistic about, that climate change is here with us. And if we preserve our natural resources, if we preserve our environment, we definitely will be able to offset some of the things which actually are putting us towards the situation where we find ourselves. Chairperson, I want to lastly say, indeed, Honorable Member, in last year in December, I indicated that I will be going to Weinberg to check progress to date. The investigation is still continuing. Our internal risk and audit are busy on this project, and as soon as there is progress which actually is tangible, we definitely will be able to come back to the Honorable August House and say, this is how far we have worked. These are the issues, but the indications that are there, when you have a municipality which actually is highly challenged, it also put all of us into a dungeon, and we have to work making sure that we preserve the resources of the people of the Republic of South Africa, but also we make sure that there is progress, because the money that was allocated was not allocated for the municipality to pay salaries or to do in-house issues. It is meant for the project. But as soon as our risk and audit committee internally is finalized with the work that is happening, we definitely, honorable members, will be able to come and say, this is the report of the work that that has been done. And I so submit, Chairperson, calling on the DG and the team to talk to the other issues. Oh, let me also indicate to Honorable Sheikh that the other thing that the minister has been doing rounds around is the question of the dam safety. And there is a program that the minister will be unfolding on the question of the dam safety, because according to what the minister always talked to, the fact that we've got recreational facilities in most of these dams and we are not generating income, that is a cause for concern. And therefore, but also within the same vein, when you do not have safety along the dams, and you would see that some of these areas, they've got very beautiful recreational facilities, but the department is not generating income out of that. Is one of the areas which the minister is really working very hard on to make sure that we protect our dams, but at the same time, we're able to, through recreational facilities, start to generate income in this regard. Chairperson, let me submit and request the DG and team to work further on what might be outstanding. Thanks.
DG?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Firstly, Honourable Michalakis, prior to my answers to you in the chat, I've confirmed with our internal audit, as indicated by the Deputy Minister, that they're busy with the investigation into that case that you referred to us. To respond to Honourable Sheikh, if you look at the Green Drop report that we've issued, that gives a detailed assessment of the WSAs with regard to the sanitation systems that they manage. And we also issued a progress report of the Blue Drop, which starts to give an indication of the state of water services as well. And we'll be issuing the final Blue Drop report this financial year, which will give a full indication. As I indicated in my presentation, we intend to put in place a publicly available dashboard for all the WSAs in the country, which will provide summary information from the Blue and Green Drops reports and from other sources of information, such as National Treasury's financial monitoring, about the state of all the WSAs. So that will be our main source of information and evidence base for informing, for both providing the public and yourselves with information about our assessment of WSAs, as you're requesting, but also to inform our support and intervention plans that we're going to be putting in place at a provincial level. And the kind of things that we intend to do with those support and intervention plans, some of those things we have the mechanisms to do them now, and some of them we want to develop new mechanisms. So, for example, one of the mechanisms that we have in our hands now is the grants. And we want to be much more careful and systematic in future that the grants that when we allocate the grants to municipalities, we allocate them in such a way that they focus on addressing the key issues identified in our Blue and Green Drop reports, and that will be identified in the dashboard. The other thing that we want to do is work very closely with other organizations such as the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency and COGTA and National Treasury, so that where a municipality is struggling because of a lack of engineering capacity, we coordinate with MISA, that they assist with engineering capacity. Where a municipality is struggling in terms of its billing and revenue collection systems, we coordinate with Treasury, both at national and provincial level, to assist them to improve their billing and revenue collection. We also have an internal construction unit as the department, and increasingly over time, we want to look at the possibility of, in urgent situations where there's a need to urgently intervene, us being able to deploy our construction unit. We also have all the water boards. Already some of the water boards are assisting us with interventions. For example, the Rand Water is assisting us with an intervention in the Vaal to address the issue raised by Honourable Visser about what is happening with regard to the Vaal pollution. And in that regard, we've allocated funding to Rand Water to rehabilitate 4 wastewater treatment works in Mfuleni and to increase the capacity of the Sebokeng wastewater treatment works. And we're also currently replacing collapsed sewer pipes and removing blockages in sewer pipes to stop sewage spilling into people's yards and into the environment. And our contractors that we are working with Rand Water in Mfuleni have been on the ground, and the situation has improved in the last couple of months with regard to the sewage spillages into people's yards in that area. There's still a lot of work to be done, particularly on the wastewater treatment works and increasing the capacity of Sebokeng wastewater treatment works. But we do have a target in place for the rehabilitation of the wastewater treatment works in that area to be completed by the end of this year. So that's an example of how we're already working with some of our water boards to support and intervene in municipalities. And we want to do more of that in future, either with our water boards directly with their staff assisting and supporting municipalities or intervening, or with the water boards appointing contractors as they're currently doing in the Vaal area. We want to be much more systematic and comprehensive with regard to our support and intervention in municipalities in future. Currently, our approach is somewhat ad hoc and we tend to respond to crises, but we want to move to a situation where, based on our dashboard of information about the performance of municipalities, we're much more systematic and comprehensive. So we will, based on the performance of the municipalities, based on objective evidence about their performance, we will have various levels of support or intervention. So, for example, if there's a material breach of the minimum norms and standards, we'll respond with a directive to the municipality to develop a strategy to remedy the breach and to update their water services development plan and offer support to the municipality to both develop and implement their strategy to remedy the breach. If there's a serious material breach of national norms and standards, we would then, in consultation with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and the MEC for local government in the province, impose a recovery plan aimed at securing the municipality's abilities to meet its water services obligations in terms of Section 139(5)(a) of the Constitution. And if there's a serious and persistent material breach of its obligations, we would then have to, again in consultation with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and the MEC for local government in the province, impose a recovery plan and assume responsibility for the implementation of the recovery plan in terms of Section 139(5)(c) of the Constitutions, and then we would then need to table a notice in the National Council of Provinces. So these are all the legal mechanisms at our disposal, and we intend to make much more systematic and consistent use of them in future based on performance evidence of municipalities that will be publicly available through our dashboard. With regard to the questions about bucket eradication, unfortunately, there have in the past been some delays in our program and our expenditure on the bucket eradication program. The funding that we've been given and the commitments that have been made have been related to the eradication of buckets in formal settlements. And as Tarko indicated, we've set a target of eradicating buckets in formal settlements by March next year with the funding that we have available for this current financial year. However, honourable members, there is also a problem of bucket systems springing up all the time in informal settlements. And the challenge there is that municipalities are not allowed by law to invest in infrastructure in informal settlements. So they tend to put temporary solutions for sanitation in informal settlements. And sometimes they're still putting new bucket systems in place in informal settlements, in addition to other temporary solutions such as chemical toilets. We intend to address that through the National Sanitation Framework that the Deputy Minister talked about, to say that buckets in informal settlements are also unacceptable, and to make it, to basically make it illegal to, or against national norms and standards for municipalities to provide new bucket systems and informal settlements as well. With regard to the question about how we're going to address under expenditure, we have three main ways or things that we're going to do to address the problem of under expenditure. The first is that we're going to put in place measures to improve project management in the department. That includes making sure that there are people formally appointed to be responsible for the management of a project across the project cycle through planning, implementation. At the moment, we don't have that. And the fact that the department has tended to work in silos between planning and implementation has been a problem, which we think we can address by having project managers for whole projects. The second thing is that we're going to improve our infrastructure procurement in the department. It's actually a regulatory requirement from National Treasury that we're supposed to have a procurement strategy in terms of the framework for infrastructure procurement and delivery management, or FIPDM, which Treasury issued about a year ago. We don't yet have such an infrastructure procurement strategy in the department, but the CFO and I have started a process of developing it, which will mean that we will do our infrastructure procurement more smartly in future. It will be more strategic. We'll make more use of longer-term 3-year framework contracts where appropriate, so that we don't have to have so many procurement events, and so that we can do our procurement quicker and more effectively. With regard to the question about the questions about how we're dealing with unauthorized expenditure and accruals and payables, I'd like to ask our CFO to respond to those. And I'd also like to ask Leonardo Marnus, our acting DDG for regulation, to respond to the questions about siltation levels and dams, the WULA applications and our targets in that regard for dealing with the backlog, and perhaps some of the additional questions on pollution. Thank you, CFO.
Thank you, DG. I'll start with the unauthorized expenditure. The chairperson is correct. The department has recorded 641 million of unauthorized expenditure. This is coming from the overspending of the budget allocated for bucket eradication and all leaks in the previous financial years. Since then, the department hasn't incurred any unauthorized expenditure, and the status of this unauthorized expenditure now is that it has been submitted to National Treasury for condonation, and we await a process which is also involving SCOPA through Parliament. And with regard to accruals and payables, it is also correct that in the previous financial years, we have recorded 3 billion plus of accruals and payables. And I can confirm that through the implementation of the financial recovery plan of the department, we have managed to reduce those obligations. And our preliminary figures for end of March are way below 500 million, with most of those being the current invoices that are due to various service providers. So the 3 billion was reduced, and we are constantly managing these accruals and payables to make sure that the incidents that led to these cases do not occur again in future. Thanks. Yes, I've covered the accruals and payables.
Leonardo?
Thank you, DG. I will just go straight into honorable members, honorable chair, deputy ministers. I will quickly go into the element first of the backlog on water use licenses. Because the question was specifically asked in terms of the Northern Cape's office, or rather, in Northern Cape's office, what's happening in the Free State, we have sit there with a backlog in the Northern Cape office of about 61 applications, which was reduced from 100 over the past 3 weeks. We have set ourselves a target for June 2022, the end of June 2022, to have all backlogs eradicated. What we, however, found during the time that we have been trying to eradicate the backlogs as well would be that there are many queries coming in on water use license applications that have been declined before and is no longer in the department. So we have to deal with those as well. But in terms of the communication that we will have with applicants in that regard would be to actually apply when they've received a decline, and not to simply engage informally with some of the department's officials, because that causes unnecessary delays as far as the days are concerned. We have set ourselves a target of dealing with or processing water use licenses within 90 days as prescribed or instructed by the president, and we are really committed to get to that point. We have a situation obviously as well that we have not increased our capacity in the department, and that has caused us to take a little bit of a step back as far as our performance are concerned, to process water use licenses within the prescribed time frame. But we have a very aggressive plan in place to improve our capacity, not only the capacity, but also the business processes associated with the processing of water use licenses, to ensure that we are much better geared in this coming present financial year to at least process 80% of all water use licenses received within that time frame, as explained by the DG. I will just add quickly in terms of the pollution part. The green drop process, as part of our incentive-based regulation program, was not only there to point out in terms of the things that's gone wrong. Certainly that is being done there as well. But in fact, as part of the process of regulation that we've introduced in that fashion, is to change behavior of those who take responsibility of wastewater services. It has proven in the past quite successful. We are quite adamant and still optimistic that we will manage again to achieve the same heights. But what we've done in the interim as well is that in the last report that we've done, we've also did a very rough order of measurement in terms of what would be required to restore functionality of that which is supposed to function and treat and pump sewer as it's supposed to be, instead of depending on replacing and rehabilitate or replacing infrastructure at high cost. So that process is underway to also influence the water services infrastructure grant processes. So the department is optimistic that through a hybrid of support and regulation processes, that we will be tackling the anti-pollution action plan, as explained by the Deputy Minister, much more aggressively. In terms of the siltation management as well, the department has a unit called this the Spatial Land Information Management Unit, and it also linked with it is there are survey units, and these survey units are, as part of their operating plan within the department, to do sedimentation surveys at a regular frequency. Obviously, those dams that find itself in catchments that are prone to sedimentation are done at a higher frequency, and those with lesser sedimentation, obviously, in a lesser frequency. We've worked with the Water Research Commission to formulate a sedimentation strategy or process, not only to say, how do we deal with sedimentation in dams, but also to get an operating plan in place to ensure that when we deal with sedimentation, that it's not simply going to increase the operating cost of that government water scheme, but that we also then have in place a better operating model that will also mean that should we go into the point of dredging, that we will be generating some level of income out of such process, but also to prevent or to minimize the phenomenon of sedimentation, also then to amend the way that we operate a dam in terms of how we then work on, in terms of working with the outlets, in terms of the operating rules that will be applied. So that's a process that's currently underway with the assistance of the Water Research Commission, and we are very positive that that will also have a positive outcome as far as the sedimentation management is concerned. So thank you, DG.
Nada, Chairperson, just a couple of additional things. With regard to the questions on the war on leaks, as indicated by the Deputy Minister, there is an SIU investigation into the war on leaks program currently underway, and we're collaborating fully with that SIU investigation. The War on Leaks program has been stopped by the department. We aren't spending any money on it anymore. But we are going to focus, as I indicated in the presentation, on reinstating the no-drop program. The most substantial area of leaks is in municipal water distribution systems. And it's quite a complex array of measures that need to be taken by municipalities to reduce their leaks in their water distribution system, including quite heavy construction work of replacing pipelines that have become very old and are leaking. And finally, Chairperson, just to mention with regard to school sanitation, we don't receive any funding for school sanitation. The budget for school sanitation is allocated through the Department of Basic Education. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, before you can take over, I just want to, Chair, you can hear me, Chairperson?
I can hear you very well. You can proceed.
No, the other matter is the question of climate change, colleagues. Climate change is no longer a myth, it's here. And the decision by the ministry, we've tasked the Water Research Commission to be at the cutting edge in terms of innovation, research and development. Our integrated water resource management philosophy will have to adapt. One of the issues that we'll adapt to is the question that how do we build dams? We must build dams in such a way that we don't actually allow these high levels of evaporation to happen. Consider even doing underground dams, especially in areas where the mining operations have stopped. The issues of water conservation and demand management will be very high. But also climate change will also require us to change our construction methodologies. If you go to eThekwini, where there was serious issues of the floods, you could see the landscape people actually building within the flood line, but also the topography there. In certain instances, if you are going to be actually putting a pipeline, how are you going to ensure that pipeline is stable in terms of structural integrity and others? Therefore, in the water sector, is going to be one of the biggest things that we think we need to share with you, and also the role that citizens must be able to play. Because we know now that the eastern seaboard around the coastal lines is going to be more wetter going forward. In the inland, it's going to be much drier, colleagues. Therefore, at a particular point, we'll have to share the work that the Water Research Commission is doing, the IP that they are actually respected in the world, and how can we actually multiply their work. The issue of leaks, colleagues, we must indicate like the DG is happening. South Africa is losing too much water, especially in the municipal. When we actually met in the water summit, we agreed that the leaks must stop. When we stop the leaks, it's going to actually enhance revenue because every drop of water that we waste, someone is looking for that drop. But municipalities can't continue to pay for water that they are actually wasting. But it will also improve customer satisfaction in terms of assurance of supply. Lastly, Chair, all the sewer that is running in streets in South Africa and running in people's homes, Minister Mkhunu, Dikelet Makas, and myself and the DG, we have declared that spillages must stop. We will work with COCTA and municipalities. We can't allow our people to continue to be exposed to the inhumane condition. Like it's happening in the Valley, it's happening in Cape Town, it's happening elsewhere. Our people, they too, they deserve to be treated not as less than human. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I think
You have disappeared, DM.
Sorry?
Am I the only one who doesn't hear what DM Matlowa is saying?
No, we have heard him.
Okay.
He registered his views, especially the work that you want to do in curbing spillages in municipalities. And he also spoke about the issue of climate change. which impact quite directly on the issues of water in the country. That's what he was saying in summary. Now, I was saying that we have listened to the presentation of the department. From where we are, we now know more and better the plans of the department, the priorities for the year. What is it that the department wants to do? How it has confronted the challenges of leadership and financial management which we are facing in the department. We are now quite aware of the programs of ensuring that you enforce regulations, especially in respect of the green drop and the blue drop, which reports are going to come this year. We're looking forward to know an extent in which those have improved or not, and the role of municipalities in terms of that. We have had all of that. Now the onus is on us, both the department and parliament, to cooperate, to work together, to ensure that you do your job and we also do our job in respect of oversight. We will interact with the department quite closely. We will expect the department on periodic basis to report to Parliament about its work, measuring that work that you report in relation to the plans that you put on the table. I think at the same time, we will have an occasion to interact with your annual report so that we see what has happened in terms of what you plan to do and the results achieved, and where the weaknesses are, where the limitations are, and how we must ameliorate the situation. We will do that. We will also visit some of the projects that are unfolding at the level of municipalities and at the level of provinces to see to it that all of this are happening. In the beginning, we had also expected the department to be ready in respect of briefing us with regard to the floods that engulfed our country in the last month. Unfortunately, the report is not available because the department was not prepared as it submitted this APP and the budget long time ago in March. We understand that. And we hope that the work that will be monitored in respect of the floods will be done by the Joint Ad Hoc Committee that has been set up by Parliament between both the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces to take that work forward and help the committee and committees of Parliament in that respect. We hope that this will help us a great deal. Now we have come to the end of this meeting. We've heard, and as I indicated, we are going to pay too much premium on ensuring that we oversee the work of the department in terms of enforcing accountability and seeing to it that the predetermined objectives that you have set for yourself are going to be achieved. And it can only be when we work together in that respect. With that, let me take this opportunity to thank everybody who attended the meeting, especially the two deputy ministers, Deputy Magazi and Deputy Mahlobo, for attending this meeting to the end and to share with us the political perspectives and dynamics of the department, and in your view, how you lead this department to ensure that it is fully fledged and it is capable to face the challenges of the hour. And with regard to that, we are quite grateful of not only the work that you do, but the information that you shared with us this afternoon. But we are also thankful of the DG and the team. We can really see that the DG is hitting the ground running. Within such a very short space of time, we can see and foresee the results. The results are showing, the commitment is there, the attitude, the mindset is there to attend to the problems, many of the problems that are facing us in this particular sector. DG, what we want to see is a department that is managed quite properly. We want to see a department that gets leadership, that will provide leadership, that is managed properly, that all the tasks that are before you in relation to both your medium-term strategic framework as well as your annual APPs are fulfilled. We want a stable department that works together with the stakeholders, especially your entities. We didn't touch a lot in respect of the entities, but I think we need to move forward in that respect to also check the work of the entities. And in that sense, we're looking forward to work with you this financial year to also expect you to report accordingly. With that, we want to thank everybody for attending the meeting. I know that it's Friday, and it's quite important that we now retire. Some of us are attending other meetings of Parliament after this meeting. And we hope that those who are going to rest quite okay, and that we continue to do our work. With that, thank you very much for attending this meeting once more, and the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks,
Thank you,
members.
Thank you,
Thanks, Mama
Chairperson.
Sanitation.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Select committee.
Recording stopped.